Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 36. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside as usual by Sean Beatty and Kevin Ardall. We are going to have a special guest, a former Seahawks and Boise State tight end, later in the show. But gentlemen, let's just touch on a quick topic. The Seattle Sounders lead the MLS Western Conference. They defeated the LA Galaxy yesterday 2-0. So Sounders are still rolling, still looking good, and the defending Western Conference champs are still right there, dominating in the MLS. So great to see that. But gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about the Seattle Mariners. So they've had a so-so week this last week of games since we've been gone. So let's just go over the results really quickly. So I think while we were on the air, 5-2 loss to Houston. Tuesday, 2-0 loss to Houston. Wednesday, 7-5 loss to Houston. They were able to salvage a win and not get swept in the series with a 1-0 win on Thursday. And then on Friday, they hosted the Los Angeles Angels for 3 games. They won 7-4 in the first one, lost 10-5 in the second one, and won 2-0 on Sunday. They are currently playing the Baltimore Orioles. It is 5-3 Orioles as they end the 8th inning. But gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about what we've seen. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. It was a rough go against Houston. They just didn't really look super impressive. That the Kikuchi pitching performance kind of salvaged the series a little bit to get that 1-0 win. Against the Angels, I was able to catch the back half of the game on Friday. Mariners were stringing hits together, looking pretty good. And then on Sunday, I was able to listen to some of the game as I was driving home, and it sounded like Sheffield had a pretty good outing. So, overall they lost more than they won, but, the Mariners are above 500, and let's be happy about that. So, Sean, what do you think?
I tweeted out before the Astros series, just don't get embarrassed. Because I said, unlike before, it's the real Houston Astros. I wouldn't say they got embarrassed, but it was very close. If Kikuchi didn't throw a one-hitter, they would have been embarrassed. They would have got swept. So, that's the real Houston Astros, and it didn't look good, guys. But I mean, like we said, like Matthew said it perfectly. Like, we're 30-something. We're like 29 games. We're playing our 30th game right now. We're 3 games above 500. It looks like we're going to be 2 games above 500, but 30 games in, I'll take it. The Angels game or Angels series, yeah, they won some. I was texting a buddy today, and he said they won another series. I don't know how the Mariners are winning these series. They're not. My dog is walking in there. I have the door open behind me. They just don't hit very well, but somehow they win, and it's not like they starters pitch very well either. So it's just like some witchcraft that they're winning games. But I'll take the witchcraft as long as they've got it. But if they could just hit, if Kyle Lewis can get it going, make a 4th hitter, and somebody else can run into a ball occasionally. JP Crawford's looking pretty good now, so maybe you've got like a 4th and a half, maybe 5th hitter there. But you need some more consistency with some guys, because if Mitch Haniger, Ty France, and Kyle Lewis or Kyle Seager still don't do anything, I still don't have a lot of confidence in this team. You need some help from somebody else still.
Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, Astros are good. Like, people kind of forgot. At the same time, too, Mariners really didn't have their best player for most of that series in Haniger, because he was ill with something. I don't know what it was. So he missed the majority of that series. Also, losing Marco Gonzalez kind of is a big blow, as we kind of saw in that just murder streak by the Angels in that first 4 innings, and then the bullpen just kind of came in and locked it in to where but we just didn't have the run power to get up to 10, so to speak. Kikuchi was very impressive. Good location. Usually in the past too, like the Astros have kind of had Kikuchi's number, and then he just had he's just like, I'm here, bitches, type of deal. It was nice to see. I want to see more consistency like that, and I feel like we're kind of getting that out of him too, which is, and we'll kind of see more. Like, we still have a very small sample size, but so far, for what we've seen out of Kikuchi, I've been very much liking it. Sean already mentioned, yeah, we need the basket a little bit better. Haggerty is also kind of shown himself a little bit, but he's not really part of what your future is going to kind of be. So it's kind of like, do I really care? You know? Other than that, Haniger is a beast, as I said last week. So.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about those injuries you mentioned, Kevin. So Marco went on the 10-day IL on May 2nd. Report yesterday was that Scott Survey said that Marco was able to throw off flat ground on Sunday. That is courtesy of Lauren Smith of the Tacoma News Tribune. Casey Sadler is on the 10-day IL. And then Evan White is listed on the injury report for bereavement. So his status is a little bit up in question right now as well. So I just want to kind of touch, Sean, you mentioned Wyatt Mills coming up. So, another starting pitcher goes down. As far as I've heard, according to Lauren Smith, again, they are still planning to do a 6-man rotation. So, I mean, at this point, the Tacoma Rainiers season is starting this week. So I feel like looking at the injuries, looking at where this team is at, let's start bringing up guys. Like I understand the time thing, whatever. I don't really care that much about that. Like, let's see what we got. Let's see what these guys have got, because like they can develop a little bit more. But at this point, when guys are going down, you need to fill some spots. I want to see what's there. I want to see what the future might look like, and if you have to burn a year of whatever, so be it. I don't see any reason to hold on to them any longer. Let's see what these guys have. Let's see what these prospects have got, and then we can know if we need to move on or not with some of these prospects. So, and some of these players that we have currently on the roster. So, Sean, what do you think?
Well, you won't find that out from 1 year, but the year of burning and eligibility is already gone. They will say they don't lose any years for calling anybody up. The argument is made more for hitters. Pitchers, I wouldn't call anybody up yet, because you're looking at a pitching inning limit. Like Logan Gilbert is on a limit because he's, they didn't pitch last year, all that stuff. So what they said was, what Scott Servais said is, he is a soon call up, but they want it so when they call him up with a 6-man rotation, he finishes the year on the rotation. They don't call him up, he pitches for like a little bit in the middle of the season, reaches his inning limit, and they shut him down. They want him to, because they've monitored, they've only kept him like 3 innings in these starts in the alternative site, because they want his innings to only get to a certain number. He didn't give the number, at least to my knowledge, but he wants to wait a little bit, keeping him shorting outings in Tacoma to make sure that he finishes the year with the Mariners starting. So that's why Logan Gilbert's not up yet. He will be up probably, they say, within like at the end of the month or something like that. But I get the innings limit for pitchers. Don't call them up, because you want them to finish the season on the rotation and actively pitching. Hitters, you have more of a case for that one. A Kelnick thing. I still want to just see Jared Kelnick get some at-bats against AAA pitchers. I mean, you've waited this long. They've started in 3 days. Let Jared Kelnick see some curveballs from a AAA guy. I mean, because at most he's seen single-A guys. Like, that's all he's really seen up to this point. You've waited this long. Give him 2 weeks and see what he does.
Yeah.
Pretty much ditto. Yeah, so I don't really want to repeat it. Yeah, just do what you can with what you got, so to speak. Yeah. This is not a year where you really, I mean, yeah, you are above 500, but don't blow the future based off just because you're hot right now type of deal, when it's not. Like, you're going to have better rosters down the line with more of your guys coming up. So like, that's the time to utilize, don't waste that now.
If Wander Franco's not called up, the Mariners can wait on Jared Kelnick.
Well, Wander Franco is a little bit of a more different situation than the Mariners.
Yeah, he's a beast, and he's younger.
But Wander Franco is in the Ray system, correct?
Yes.
I mean, they've actually had success in the last 20 years, so they're in a little
bit and they're situation. Not calling him up right now. They can use Wander Franco, and they're like, we're waiting. Like, settle down. Yeah. Like,
if anything, you would have their fans wanting him, because they're like, oh, we lost the World Series. We should bring up Wander Franco, and then we'll go back and we'll win it. And then so Tampa Bay's gonna be like, no, seal your asses.
They're in 4th place right now, and they're like, oh my God, what are we doing? They're like, settle down. He will be up when he's ready. Just breathe. Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to mention the Rainiers. They have, I think they're probably doing this because of COVID protocol. They have 6 games against El Paso starting on May 6th. And then they go to Salt Lake on the 13th for 6 games. Then they come back here to face Round Rock for 6 games. And then they'll go to Reno for 6 games after that to round out May. Tacoma is only like 30 minutes away. So, Kelnick, I guess if you're still there, maybe I'll go catch a game and see how you're doing over there in Tacoma. But gentlemen, we are going to take a wait. Anything else you guys want to touch on, Mariners or MLB wise? Actually, I want to get some thoughts.
Yeah, I just wanted to say everyone needs to go watch the Everett Aqua Sox because they are absolutely loaded. That's where most of their talent is located at the moment. I think they have Julio Rodriguez, Zach DeLoach, their second round pick this year. They have Kirby, Hancock. That team is going to be fun to watch. So go watch Everett. I'm already talking to some buddies about getting tickets when they come to the Tri-Cities. Hopefully they're all still there by that time. But yeah, go watch Everett.
Are you going to utilize Nolan to get an autograph?
Yes, absolutely. And we talked about that when you were visiting. I am going after Julio Rodriguez. That is who Nolan is going to get for me. My 18-month-old. Yes, I will hold up Nolan.
Do you have a jersey that you can just turn Nolan around and have him sign? Like, what's the plan here? Are you gonna get a baseball?
I have a San Jose Shark jersey he can sign with his last name on it, but not a Mariner one.
Julio, if you somehow listen to this, don't sign the jersey, the Sharks jersey. Wait for a baseball or a Mariners jersey, all right?
I'll probably get him to sign like his little Mariner hat. So I'll get him to sign the Mariner hat.
There you go.
And
then you're like, Nolan, this is mine now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going eBay. Here we come.
Yeah, future safekeeping.
No eBay.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break, and then we are going to be right back with Chris O'Neill right after this. Welcome back to Washington East to West Sports, and we are now joined by former Boise State and Seahawks tight end Chris O'Neill. Chris, welcome to the show. So we are very happy to have you here to give us some actual real insight takes on football from someone who's actually played the sport, unlike the three of us here on this podcast. So it's great to have you on here. We're going to do a quick little interview with you real quick. So you are a former Boise State tight end. So as someone who saw the game live in 2007, what was it like to be a part of that 2007 Fiesta Bowl game?
Oh, dude, it was like one of the biggest roller coasters I've ever been a part of. We were taking it to them pretty good most of the game, and then you could kind of see how Oklahoma was just a lot bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, and they kind of imposed their will. I think a couple breaks on a punt return that we kind of fumbled, muffed, and gave back to them. But the end of that game, man, like, everybody you talk to, like, I can remember where I was sitting. I remember what I was doing. Like those, the hook and ladder to get to the end zone, then, the 2-point conversion and the halfback pass, like all that stuff. Like it's some memorable stuff. And it's pretty cool to say that you've been a part of it and you were there, you were doing it. And yeah, I remember like hearing stories from friends that like they were eating on a couch and their dad jumped up, a knife fell off their plate and he sat on their knife because they were just going nuts because that game was, Boise State's going to win, Boise State's going to lose. And then they came back and we knew we had to go for 2. If we didn't go for 2, it probably would have ended differently.
I do want to ask you, Adrian Peterson was on Oklahoma's team during that game. What was it like to see, arguably one of the greatest running backs of all time up close and personal?
Dude, the man among boys, like just watching him run through, like we kind of contained him pretty good for most of the game. But then you watch that, if you remember the game, like the first play in the overtime, he just handed the ball off to Adrian Peterson. He did what Adrian Peterson does. He just ran over everybody and it looked easy. He was coming off his collarbone injury that year. He didn't play much that season. And then you see he had a lot of energy stored up and was showing us how it was done.
Sean, Kevin, anything? Any questions?
Well, I was gonna say he made NFL players look like that. So yeah, I was gonna make Boise State look like that.
Oh yeah, it's funny because if you think about that game, at the end of the game, our running back got down on his knee and proposed to his cheerleader girlfriend on the sideline. And Ian Johnson ended up signing with the Vikings after our senior year. So when he got to Minnesota, Adrian Peterson got down on one knee with a football in his hand and asked him if he'd be part of the Minnesota Vikings with us.
Oh.
And doing stuff like that. It was pretty cool. It was, he kind of turned it or flipped it around on him a little bit, and all in good fun.
Kevin, yeah, got a question?
My main thing, I don't know if I had any pre-set up because I didn't get to look at the document. I heard you played well, because I didn't pay much attention to college football back in the day, other than like WSU and UW and stuff like that. You played with Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was his? I don't know how many times you got to speak with him, but now that he's offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, just speak to his football knowledge and just what is he like as hanging around him, type of deal.
Yeah, so I was a senior when Kellen was a redshirt freshman, so I spent 2 seasons with him. He redshirted, and then he started his redshirt freshman year. And I remember Kellen on his recruiting trip, and we were sitting at breakfast one day, and I'm like, who is this kid sitting with our coaches? Was not an impressive physical specimen, he was just kind of sitting there. And they're like, oh, this is Kellen Moore. He's, one of the all-time leading passers in the state of Washington. His dad's a football coach in Prosser, coach's kid. And he's probably going to come to Boise State. So we usually do summer workouts, voluntary summer workouts that if you're not there, you don't play. But he showed up, and we get, you start giving the freshman playbooks and stuff like that. And I remember going over to the quarterback, Bush Hamden, who was my class's quarterback. And Kellen Moore is sitting in this room, and he's taking the Boise State playbook and he's putting it in Madden football game, or NCAA football game, one of the college football games for PlayStation. And he's sitting there, and he's putting the plays in, and then he decides, then he plays with the playbook. Kellen is just a absolute student of the game. He knows the ins and outs and the whys of everything that we do with football. When it comes down to training, when it comes to running routes, when it comes to throwing, Kellen wasn't the strongest and the biggest guy, but he was the smartest guy on the field. And he put the ball anywhere he wanted to because he knew where it needed to go, and he could just anticipate you. And it goes back to him putting it in a video game just so he can get mental repetitions before we even got to fall camp. And I mean, we remember when he first came as a redshirt, we were like, this guy can't throw a spiral. He was a lefty, the ball wasn't very tight and all this stuff, but then he got in the weight room, and the next year it was night and day. And then, I mean, he's all-time winningest quarterback in college football history. Pretty cool. Was
there one play that you were like, okay, he might be the real deal?
Yeah, dude, oh man, there was a play. We had a wide receiver named Titus Young, who was a young guy and stuff like that.
Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Detroit Lions. He had a little rough go after that, but Kellen threw drop back, 3-step drop, and just let this ball fly. And Titus ran underneath and scored a touchdown. It was one of the first plays of the season. We're like, all right, because it's a freshman. You don't know what you're going to get with a freshman, and he just comes in and loads, and you're just like, all right, this guy knows what he's doing. This is gonna be fun. And then, I mean, I don't think Boise State's offense has returned to that level of efficiency and productivity since Kellen's been gone. They try and match it, but you just don't have a quarterback that can do it.
Prosser, that's how they run them out there.
Dude, go Stangs.
You're a Cowboys fan, correct?
Yeah, I grew up a Cowboys fan, so nobody's perfect, but
yeah. So first of all, how dare you? Second of all, how good do you think the Cowboys could be this next season, and what have you thought of the Cowboys in the recent seasons?
And they're the team that just loves to break your heart. You look at all the hype, you look at the players that they have. You got Amari Cooper, you got Zeke Elliott, you got Dak Prescott, you got all these guys on offense that are fantastic. They're turning out points like crazy. You got one of the best offenses. Kellen's the offensive coordinator. You know how that goes, but defense has just been kind of meh. they're just not efficient. So watching the draft and seeing how they've just kind of really loaded up on the defensive side of the ball, they kind of understand that they got some work to do. Now with the new D coordinator, Dan Quinn, doing all that stuff, I think they got a shot. But I mean, it's the NFC East. Who doesn't have a shot right now?
Yeah.
They're just not the greatest division. But I think they have the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys have a shot to win it. Have a shot to really make a move. But you look at what the Giants have, like, just hidden on their roster. If they can put it together, if Daniel Jones can put it together, that would probably be a pretty good team to go against.
So my biggest memory of the Seahawks versus the Cowboys, I'm not going to bring up the recent playoff game where the Cowboys won because I don't like that memory. I am going to bring up the game
Tony Romo one?
Yes, that is the game I'm going to bring up. The Tony Romo fumbling the field goal. What did you think of that game, and how upsetting was it when that happened?
Oh, dude, I mean, I was at home. I was in California with my parents. I can't remember if I was in college or where I was at. What year was that?
07?
Yeah, so I was in college. Yeah, I was at Boise State, but I was at home for like Christmas time or something like that. And
Yeah.
we're family, like, we're getting ready to go out to dinner and stuff. And I'm like, hold on, we're gonna watch this. We're gonna finish this. Cowboys are about to win a game, and you're like stoked. They're gonna kick a field goal. They're gonna win, and then you're like, he's done this how many times his entire career, that entire season, and the one time where it's like more important than anything, he fumbles the ball, and you're just like.
That's the end zone in what is now what's it called, the Lumen Field. That is the end zone of nightmares for people. Like, Detroit Lions lost there, the Giants lost there. You do not, as an opposing, end the game going to that end zone. Don't do it.
I'm like, there's something cool. Like, so the last game that I played with Oakland was our preseason finale, and the preseason finale was always in Seattle, and it's a preseason game, and the stadium is full, and the stadium is rocking, and you're just like, there's just something special about that field, the way the acoustics work, the way the setup is. When you're down there and you're looking up, it's intimidating, and it's a lot of noise, a lot of vibrations, and being in Seattle, you get a little wind, it floats all over the place. It's a cool place.
I will say Tony Romo is criminally underrated as a quarterback, but that's beside the point.
Also, I will agree with this for Cowboys fans. Dez did catch it. He did catch it. I will have to agree with you on that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Once they change the rule, everything's a catch.
Who knows what the rule is? Did he catch it? I don't know.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
He caught it.
Every replay you look at, you're like, did he trap it? Did he use his body to put down on the ball? Like,
how many feet? Like, did he?
It's like there's so much science behind it now. It's just like,
and you can't go back years later because it's changed so much since then too, that you're like, you can't look at the rules now and look back then.
Yeah. But I mean, I look back, like, you look back and watch the 49ers Chargers Super Bowl when John Taylor caught that ball backwards, and it's like, they're like slow-mo replaying it. Like, did he catch it? Hit the turf? Did he catch it? Did he not catch it? Like, you know what? The guy made a play.
Give it to him. Says the guy who caught passes. Okay, yeah.
Listen, I might be biased, but
as a tight end, did you model your game after any particular tight end?
Dude, my favorite tight end growing up was Jay Novacek, Dallas Cowboy guy. But I mean, he was an athlete. Like, he moved around. I remember seeing like pictures of him hurdling guys, and he was just kind of like a dirt dog. I didn't play tight end in high school very long. I was a quarterback most of my high school career, and until my senior year, they kind of moved me to, they called it a tight end. I stayed on the line a little bit, but I was more flexed in the slot. But watching Jay Novacek be able to block, be able to score, be able to do stuff like that, like, you kind of model it. Like, you want to be the all-around guy. And I know the position has changed so much since I played. Like I loved being a receiver, but I also love dominating guys. And it seems like now tight ends are just freak athletes, just massive humans that can run fast and just create insane mismatches.
Who is the greatest tight end of all time, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
I mean, the correct answer is Tony Gonzalez, but you can answer if you want.
Tony Gonzalez, but I was thinking Kellen Winslow Sr., for the Chargers. Like, that game that he played where they had to like carry him off the field to go, because he just put everything out there. That's a memorable thing. I like how Gronk was just kind of an animal. As much as I'm not a Patriots fan at all, but like the competitiveness of that guy, like, and just how he made plays. He created mismatches and he made some huge plays that made games for the Patriots. Those guys are awesome. Tony Gonzalez, dude. I remember Tony Gonzalez when one of my coaches in high school was the head coach at Cal for a little bit, and they used to run these, they call them dual screens, where Tony Gonzalez would run a pivot over the middle of the field and the running back would run a swing, and they decide who they throw it to. And they threw it to Tony like more than 90% of the time, just because he was such a massive human being. He'd box the guy out and he'd get you 7 or 8 yards, and then it's an easy second down.
Yeah, it's, Tony Gonzalez, and then I grew up watching Antonio Gates, Jason Witten, so those guys will always be up there in the top tight ends. Who's the best tight end in the league right now, in your opinion?
Darren Waller.
Oh, okay. Oh, the Walrus. I like it. I like it.
Spicy. I like it.
Yeah.
That guy, look at him. Like, looking at his history, just his personal history, that guy's overcome a ton. Like, fantastic, like where he's at now. But like, watching that guy play, like, I don't know if you remember watching the initial game at the new stadium, at the Allegiant Stadium for the Raiders. They played the Saints, and Waller went nuts. The guy is, he's 4'4" fast. I don't know if he's 6'5", 6'6". Like, he's just a nightmare matchup that can just make plays. He can catch the football, but he can get down in the dirt and he can block too. So it makes him a seriously dangerous weapon. And I think he's probably the best guy I watch out there, and that I really enjoy watching. Like, he's fun to watch.
I had him on my fantasy team. I know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Me too.
So when you see tight ends these days, you mentioned the position has evolved. Like, how much has the position evolved? Do you feel like it's mostly skewing towards maybe a pass catching, a blocking, or you got to do a little bit of everything?
Well, I think you have to be able to do a little bit of everything, but I feel like it's kind of skewing a little bit, like, just because the game is skewing a little bit to be more of a pass efficient, a pass heavy game. But like in the past year, tight end was just another on the line of scrimmage. He was your extra blocker. And now he's creating mismatches on the field that are just opening up opportunities for wide receivers. And a good tight end is a quarterback's best friend, because they're playing over the middle of the field. They're playing, they're usually the guys that have big bodies. They can make tough plays across the field and make quarterbacks look good. Having a good tight end, I think a quarterback really, I might be biased, but the quarterback does great with a good tight end. I mean, look at the teams out there that have great tight ends. Look at what the quarterbacks are doing. I mean, Derek Carr, you look at Derek Carr, he's a good quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback in the league. But when you have a guy like Darren Waller, he makes you look a lot better.
But the two teams in the Super Bowl. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
they're pretty good.
We haven't even talked about him yet. I mean,
like Gronk and Kelsey. Yeah, they're monsters.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like after Gronk has come back from his retirement, it's a little bit different game for him. Like, I think he's become more of a blocker, and he'll still make great plays, but I feel like he might be a little bit slower. He might lose a couple steps. That Florida humidity, he ain't used to it. He ain't used to that Florida humidity. So it's a different game.
So as a Seahawks podcast, Seahawks tight end roster: Will Dissly, Gerald Everett, Tyler Mabry, Colby Parkinson, Steven Sullivan, and Luke Wilson. What do you think of that tight end room?
I actually really like Will Dissly. Like, I mean, he's a local kid. He's a UW guy, and just kind of came out of nowhere, right? Like, everyone was like, we're going to get him as a blocking tight end. He's going to do something. And then when he was healthy, he was leading, scoring more touchdowns. He was leading the team. Like, just a surprise. And, I think the other guys are good. Like Luke Wilson, like, just watching Luke from Hard Knocks last year or the year before with the Raiders, like, just a cool dude. Like, you're like, Canadian guy, it's hard not to like a guy like that. And, I think you get some good competition out of a group like that, and hopefully the Seahawks will know what they're doing and throw them the ball.
All right, you're a Cowboys fan. Cowboys tight end room: Cole Hikutini, Blake Jarwin, Sean McKeon, Dalton Schultz, and Jeremy Sprinkle. Great name. What do you think of that tight end room?
You butchered
Oh.
like 3 of those names, but it's okay.
Cole Hikutini,
Yeah.
Cole Hikutini, the guy from Louisville. Like, I liked watching him in college. Like, he was a good body. He was a big body, but I mean, Blake Jarwin's the guy. Like, if you get Blake Jarwin healthy, he tore his pec last year. Like, he was making plays, and get him back on the field, get him healthy. Like, I think they'll be good. I think, Dalton Schultz. I mean, he's a Stanford guy, right? And that he did pretty well last year. I think, you get 2 tight ends, and you have a 2 tight end set, it becomes even more of a nightmare because you don't know who's going to do what. And if you have 2 guys loading one side, you run like a wing, like a wing formation. It's can be deadly.
Patriot style. Plus, you actually have a good quarterback, hopefully playing all year and not rolling out Andy Dalton for 12 games or whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, quarterback 1 as the Bears.
Yeah, he said I'm the starter. Yeah. Hold on.
Oh man.
Some feels like here on this.
Yeah, about that Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
You guys got any other questions for Chris? Sean, Kevin?
I would say kind of leading to the draft, so to speak. What from Dallas's draft did you like?
Oh man, I like that they picked up. It was Parson. I'm butchering his name. Their first round pick. Like, you got a linebacker that's just a freaking athlete. Like Leighton Vander Esch. He's a Boise State guy, and like he's a they call him the Wolf. The Wolf Hunter. Like, keep him on the field. He's great, but he's been injured for the last 2 years. So you get another guy like this guy, and he's going to come in. Depth is always great. I think he's going to do some damage. The fact that the Cowboys have really bolstered their secondary, I feel like that was like their real weak point. Like, they had a decent defensive line. You got DeMarcus Lawrence, you had Crawford, who retired. Like, and then they refilled their line through free agency pretty good. Their DBs needed a little extra help. So putting that much effort in the draft, I think it is worth it, and I think it'll hopefully pay off, especially with an old Seattle Seahawks D coordinator trying to run the show.
Good luck.
Yeah. I felt like Seattle's defense was pretty good when he was there.
Yeah, because they had the LOB. I'm pretty sure you could coordinate that defense.
What did they say? They said the Cowboys now have the tallest secondary in the NFL. Like,
I mean,
modeling after the LOB.
Maybe he's got a model. Maybe.
Yeah, you can pull out Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas. Yeah, good luck.
I think Earl Thomas has.
Earl Thomas is available. You can go,
He is.
Actually, they're both available. Go get them both.
Yeah. I don't know if I want Earl Thomas on my team right now.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does.
Especially if his brother's around. That's just
dude.
Best player you played with and best player you played against.
Ooh, best player I played with. Gosh, man, like in the NFL, Darren McFadden was the back for the Raiders. Like, he's a good dude, and in college, best guy I played with. I mean, it had to be Kellen Moore, like, without a doubt. Like that guy made me look great. I'd be running over the middle, all of a sudden the ball hits me in the helmet, like sticks it in my face. It's hard not to catch. Like, those are probably the 2 best players that I played with. Toughest guy I ever played against. Gosh, man, I'm trying to think. Bobby Wagner.
Oh,
Utah State. I mean, trying to get up the field and block a guy like that. Like, you think you have him, and all of a sudden he takes one step, slips underneath you, and you're just like, Olay. And you just tell everybody to watch out, because here comes Bobby Wagner. And, like, I mean, that guy was a special talent playing at a school that, I mean, if he played at a higher profile university, I think he would have been a higher draft pick.
didn't you tell me one time that Lorenzo Neal hit you one time and you thought about changing careers?
Yeah, that was well, they changed my position. So, like, they thought, hey, he's a big dude. We'll put him at middle linebacker. So they put me at middle linebacker in Oakland for the start of the training camp, and we did a goal line drill. And Lorenzo Neal had just signed with the Raiders, and I remember we were in a bear defense, and the hole opened, and I went in to fill it, and there was this. I mean, Lorenzo Neal is not a big human being, and he's like 5'8". He's like 260, just a muscle bowling ball. And I'm like, I got to get lower than this guy or he's going to run me over. So I tried to get lower than him and I couldn't get down that low. And he just blew me up. And I was like, kind of woke up and I was facing the other direction. I was like, how did I get here? And there's Lorenzo Neal just kind of trotting back to the huddle. And I'm like, that's how I got here. Like it's a different game, man. Those guys are just hitting hard. And
he's the OG muscle hamster.
Dude, he really is. And you watch his workouts and he doesn't even lift that much. Like his weights, like he didn't do a lot of weights. He was all about flexibility and like resistance bands and doing stuff like that because he could get low.
Like you said, they built different, man. Like
yeah.
We've all seen like Hard Knocks and those shows. How tough is it in reality when you're there to try and make an NFL roster? And like, what's the pressure like of like, I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow?
Dude, it's stressful. It's super stressful, especially being, I was an undrafted guy. So, we're a dime a dozen. If we're not performing, they'll just cut us and send us on our way. So like you're learning not only how to be a professional, but you're learning a playbook and you're learning, how to do everything and be a teammate and everything's just magnified. When you go from high school to college, it's a big jump. When you go from college to the pros, it's an even bigger jump because everybody in the NFL is the best of the best. They're your fastest athletes, your strongest athletes. So you have to try and step your game up to that same level. And, throw into the mix, like, draft order, whether people want to say it or not, does have a pretty good effect on where you start in that lineup, and especially as an undrafted guy, you really got to work your way. You got to like prove yourself that you can play and you can hang with them. But it's, we were in a hotel. I was in a hotel from April when we started, our mini camps through training camp through September. I was in a hotel and like didn't have a kitchen, didn't have any of that stuff. So that adds to your stress because you don't know where you're going to how are you going to take care of your food and like your nutrition and stuff like that. How are you going to go do all this stuff? And then, anytime somebody knocks on your door, it could be housekeeping, but it's like, oh crap, they're coming to take my playbook. I remember the first time I got cut, like they knock on my door. It's like, we were on a break and they're like, hey, coach wants to see you, bring your playbook. You're just like, what's happening? Like, you just know. And you go and you sit down there and they're like, they give you the spiel, like, hey, we got to make a move. Like the first time I got cut from Oakland, it was like, I can't remember his name, but one of the offensive tackles broke his ankle. So they needed to bring in another tackle, but they didn't want to release him. So they released me to make room for the new guy coming in. And then, 2 weeks later, I went to Minnesota for a week. I got cut there and then got re-signed in Oakland. And went through the end of the training camp and started the practice squad season and then ended up tearing my ACL and calling it good.
All right. Well, any other questions for Chris, Sean, Kevin, anything?
No.
All right. Well, Chris, I hope you don't mind sticking around for a little bit of Seahawks NFL draft talk, if you don't mind.
No, let's do it.
All right. So, gentlemen, let's get into some Seahawks NFL draft stuff. So let's start with some minor Seattle Seahawks news. So it was released today that the Seahawks are not expected to pick up the fifth-year option for Rashad Penny, so he will be a free agent after the season. That saves them about $5 million on the cap. The Seahawks also signed another defensive tackle in Robert, I hope I'm saying this right, Nkemdiche.
That's close.
Is it not Nkemdiche?
It's close enough.
All right.
It's close enough.
So that he is a defensive tackle, didn't play last year, but they just signed him as kind of more of a depth thing. They didn't release any numbers about what he signed for. And then the final, that's all the news we have. So anything stick out to you, Sean, Kevin, or Chris? I'm going to throw it to Kevin first.
The Rashad Penny thing doesn't really surprise me. As y'all know, I was a big Rashad Penny fan when Now, I did not want him in the first. I thought he was more of a second, third round guy, but mainly because one, in college, the tape on him was just ridiculous. I mean, the dude like dragged a freaking safety for like literally on his jersey for like 15 yards as he's running down the field full sprint, and the dude just hanging on. Good kick returner in college and stuff like that, but unfortunately just really didn't pan out the way with injuries and Chris Carson just being a beast. Robert Condice, when he was drafted, based off the tape that I saw, I was kind of scared that the Arizona Cardinals got him just because he is a freak athlete at his position. Very mobile, very quick, but also powerful too to play defensive tackle. Though he never really panned out to where for the Cardinals. Now, what that was based off of, because I haven't really seen their camp or really seen him play other than the times he's played the Seahawks. If it's the right price, in my opinion, why not? Just because one, he's still young. I think he's only like 24, 25.
26.
And is he 26? Oh, okay. And honestly, if you can hopefully just coach some new things into him, hopefully, because the athleticism is there. So it just, in my opinion, it comes down to, is it like technique versus just knowing what they wanted to do? He wasn't a good mold or good fit for what their type of defense was. I don't know, but we'll see. To be honest, if it's for cheap, it doesn't bother me.
Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, Penny's not surprising at all. It was the right move. I was a big fan of Robert, like Kevin said, coming out. He's a freak. He apparently crushed his workout. I hope that's the case. But yeah, if he could put it together, it's a steal, because again, the guy's an athletic freak at his size and how well he moves for a big guy. But he just doesn't put it together to the next level, because all the measurables don't mean nothing if you can't play on Sunday. So what they're probably gonna be paying for him, it's probably fine. It's probably not much more than a million or so. So I'm more than okay with taking flyers for cheap guys like that.
Chris, any thoughts on either of those moves?
Yeah, dude. I think I remember Penny, San Diego State guy. He's from in the Mountain West with our Boise State and stuff like that. That guy was an animal, and I just think like sometimes the transition to the NFL is a little bit tougher than those guys expect. And I think it kind of goes down to the same thing with Kimdichie. Like, I mean, I remember hearing stories like, he was smoking weed, and didn't he fall out of a hotel room window at some point? Like, he didn't, like, I think coming from Ole Miss and being kind of a superstar, like I think he kind of took it for granted a little bit. So, you can see some of these guys that have always been stars and stuff like that. Sometimes they don't pan out because sometimes they just don't work as hard. And maybe the year out that he spent last year made him kind of realize how much he missed the sport. And hopefully he did crush the workout, and he's going to come back a completely different person. Because if you look at the Cardinals tape with him, like it wasn't spectacular. Like he took plays off, like he got lazy, and like he was getting pushed around. So a year off, realizing what you're missing, hopefully that lights a fire under somebody and gets them going.
Yeah, not surprising about the Penny move. I mean, it feels like with that signing of Chris Carson, it's Chris Carson, DJ Dallas, and then, whatever else is behind them. With the Kimdichie signing, I just like all the depth that they're putting into the defensive line. Like, you can never have too much depth. And I would assume Puna and Kerry Hyder are going to be the starters on defensive tackle, but never hurts to have a few guys behind them that you can cycle in there. But they didn't have any draft capital to really draft any more depth. So that's a solid transition into our NFL draft coverage here. So let's talk about how the Seahawks did in their very small draft this season. They had 3 picks. So I'm just going to go down them really quick for the people out there. So round 2, number 56 overall, they drafted Dwayne Eskridge out of Western Michigan, a wide receiver. In the 4th round, 137 overall, they drafted Trey Brown, a cornerback out of Oklahoma. And then in round 6, number 208 overall, they drafted Stone Forsythe, offensive tackle, Florida. Great name. Should be a great football player as well, I'm sure. So let's just kind of get some opinions on how the Seahawks draft class was. Sean, what do you think?
So just looking at the 3 players. So obviously the draft is a F because they have no capital. But if you just look at the 3 players, what they did with the 3, I believe Kevin said this when we were texting about it, and I agree. if they let Russ cook, this is a very good draft. They drafted a lineman, may play or may not, but and then they drafted a wide receiver who versatile, can really run. So if you've got a third receiver in the second round, then you've kind of got to let Russ cook. And if they don't, and then they end up just running the ball a bunch, then it's a complete F. But the players themselves, I think are fine. I have some numbers here, Matthew, that I'm going to share with you. So there's numbers on like the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round. Basically, the 6th round, you have a 22% chance of reaching a second contract with any team. And you have a 6% chance of being what is called, according to EPA, a good player, so above average. That also, and then the 4th round, you have a 10% chance of being above average, things like that. Oh, this is historical values. So for all the Seahawks fans saying that, well, all these guys are great picks and they're going to all do great things and everything like that, the Seahawks have let's do a quick, I forgot to actually do the last little bit of math, but it's 7 divided by 83 here. That's the percentage that they're going to that one of them is going to be good. That is 8%. I'm not betting on either of them actually doing anything in the NFL, because that is what the numbers tell you. They're probably not going to do anything in the NFL. However, we can all hope they do something in the NFL. So please curb your enthusiasm.
Chris, what'd you think?
Well, the Seahawks always have a way of finding receivers that nobody wants and turning them into something. I mean, look at Doug Baldwin. Look at Ricardo Lockett. Look at, the other Lockett you got right now. Like, those guys, okay college players. They're fast. They made plays, but they turned them into something. And I think you can kind of do the same thing here. I mean, getting an extra DB in the draft, I think DBs are probably the most important position on defense now, the way the NFL is moving. So you get anybody, you give them a shot, like they can show what they do in preseason. I think they shortened the preseason this year now and one less opportunity, but it gives them some depth. And I mean, anytime you can take a tackle, I mean, offensive line, like you look at a lot of these teams like that build great offenses, they build it around the offensive line and then they move on after that. And Russell Wilson said it. I mean, this offseason, they need pieces, like, and getting one in the draft is great, but they still got some more work to do there.
Kevin, what do you think?
Starting out with Eskridge, another fast deep ball kick returner guy, scares me just because Pete drafts a bunch of people that can kick return, but then doesn't utilize them. Like last year, we had David Moore returning kicks when people like Penny and Lockett, and there's other guys too that were specialized in this in college, and we're putting David Moore out there. It's why are you drafting them then? If that was a part of the reason why you drafted him was for special teams, because that's what Pete loves. So I don't know if they'll even use them. Hopefully they will, because what I saw on tape of his returns was very nice. As Sean already mentioned, I hope this is a transition to let Russ cook, but it also scares me too, because having 3 guys that can run a 4-3 just also means that Pete could regress back to what, as DK already mentioned in the interview, of where they become predictable, run deep ball type of deal. And just he thinks that having a third option out there, that somebody's just going to be open on the deep ball, which you can do from time to time. Like Russell Wilson has one of the best deep balls in the game. Why not utilize it? But you want to also mix up your offense too, to where that it's the defense just doesn't know what you're doing, as you're walking up to the line of scrimmage type of deal. Trey Brown, physical, very speedy corner. He had the lowest passer rating in single coverage out of all DBs in this draft class, which is kind of impressive. Also impresses me that maybe, as I kind of mentioned on Twitter with Sean, maybe Pete is learning new tricks type of deal, because he never took a corner under 6 foot before. I mean, even though I think Ugo Amadi is under 6, but he hasn't met nickel. But any of the corners in the XY position, he never really liked doing it under 6 foot. So possibly, and he said that DJ Reed in the post interviews, that DJ Reed kind of helped him turn into that, just because of what DJ Reed did last year for them. That maybe there are corners under 6 foot that actually can be really good at their positions and stuff like that. So, and then Stone Forsythe, my main line that I put on there, to quote one of our good friends, JT, with big boys, big toys. Oh, 6'8", 300 plus pounds, and just, man, like, holy crap. His tape was very impressive for a dude who's 6'8", 300 plus pounds, like, very good balance along with hands too. Like, the only thing that I really could knock on him after watching his tape, Georgia really got after him. Like, one of the Georgia's defensive ends would just do this little one step where he just hopped to the left of his hands and just shoved him off, and then just used the speed to get around him. I mean, he did it like 2 or 3 times too, and got 2 sacks out of it. That's something I think can be, just based off the rest of his tape, because showing his athleticism, I think that could be kind of worked on type of deal. But I'm just worried to see if more speed guys are kind of his like kryptonite a little bit, for him being such a big dude. Overall, I would have liked to seen the positions drafted a little differently type of deal. Because like, as our previous podcasts have shown, I thought lines on both sides were the more important thing. So you should probably go O-line / D-line with your second, because the higher up you get, the more talented player usually. Could this pan out? Yes, because this draft class alone is kind of like the mystery box, so to speak, in my opinion, just because there isn't a whole lot of tape and a lot of people opted out of 2020. So there's probably going to be more guys in the later rounds that might be diamonds in the rough, like kind of like what we got with like the 2012, 2011 drafts. You might find a Cam Chancellor out there in the 5th round type of deal. You might find a Richard Sherman in the 5th round type of deal, or at least like good to elite players. So for a draft that's, you don't really kind of know what you're getting type of deal, I was okay with having 3 picks, but when we're using those other picks to get players that are already established, I wish we got more out of it versus just having Jamal Adams and Carlos Dunlap and Gabe Jackson, who graded worse than our starting tackles, both our starting guards last year type of deal. So overall, I was okay with it, but would have kind of changed drafting position of what is most important to the team.
Yeah, I'll just go quickly on these. So 2nd round, Dwayne Eskridge. I was hoping for a tackle. I think we all talked about this on the previous podcast. I thought they were going to try and target Dylan Radins, but he was taking a few picks beforehand. So I think it was probably, if I had to guess, it was a situation where they didn't want to reach for a guy they thought they might be able to get later. So I thought they probably went a wide receiver because it was a guy they really liked, a guy they really talked to. And, I've seen he's 24, a faster guy. I kind of like that he's a little bit older, a little bit more mature, to come into camp and, kind of fill a role that they might need. Trey Brown, based on that statistic that Kevin said, I saw that as well. I think he'll fit right into the cornerback room. It's hard to tell with all the guys they've signed who is going to emerge and who's going to play what position. So they've signed a lot of veterans, and now Trey Brown comes into the mix. Like it's going to be, I think it'll be a pretty solid competition for those top 3 or 4 spots in the cornerback position. And then Stone Forsythe, I read a lot about him. Like he was slated to probably be a 3rd round pick. So it seems like this might've been a steal for them in the 6th round, but obviously he did slide back because, other teams were like, we don't really necessarily see him as a 3rd round pick. And then Seattle really want him there in the 6th round. So hopefully they did get a diamond in the rough at that pick. But, size, it's really hard to you can't really teach size. You can teach technique and that sort of thing. So big man, and he should hopefully be able to protect Russ if he does crack the starting lineup in some capacity. But I do want to ask real quick, which player out of these 3 do you think has the most impact for the Seahawks in their first year? I'm just going to go ahead and start. I think they drafted Dwayne Eskridge to take some pressure off of DK, off of Tyler, off of Disley, off of Everett, just another guy in the slot. I unfortunately think that spells backup role for your guys' boy John Ursua once again, but
he's probably practice squad at this point.
But
on the team.
And there's also Penny Swain there as well, so that those 2 are probably going to be competing for that 3rd wide receiver spot. But I think he'll probably have the biggest impact, especially since I think they wanted to get that other weapon for Russ. Chris, what do you think?
I mean, I think I think Stone's Forsythe for real. Like I think the offensive line needs some serious help, and you get a guy that's that big and that mobile. Like I think he'll be your diamond in the rough and really make an impact.
Kevin?
It's kind of like a tie for me. I would
No,
say
you pick one. Don't you do that?
No, there's no ties in football.
Just
except
because
for after overtime.
I agree with
Who
Chris.
said that?
I agree with Chris where I think because Shell was a nice band-aid last year. Like, and I say that as I'm not like band-aid meaning because we signed him to only like 2-year deal. Like he's not your long-term plan of what you're going to do at right tackle. I think that he could compete for that right tackle position against Shell, and then he is your probably long-term plan if he pans out there to switch over to left tackle once Dwayne Brown retires, because Dwayne Brown is getting older. He's like, what, he's 37?
Yeah.
36, 37, somewhere along that line. I mean, hopefully he's like Whitworth to where he's like just a beast until he's 40, but we can't expect that out of him. He's also had knee injuries before because of just getting rolled up on. It just happens in the O-line. And it's caused to where his left, I think he has a brace full time on his left knee, I believe. But you know, it's time. You want to make sure you have a plan in place just in case Dwayne Brown does get rolled up on again. You know, like heaven forbid it happens. I hope he keeps, you know, he plays all 17 games.
Do you have a wooden desk? Can you knock on it, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
And it's also good to have just depth too. It's but at the same time too, Dwayne Eskridge. Yeah, unfortunately, I'd like to have Ursula, and that's kind of like why I also question like the pick. It's like you're drafting guys that you've already kind of drafted. Like you got Freddie Swain last year in the fourth, it was, and then you also got you traded back into the draft to get Ursula. Like, and then Ursula had really good plays for like when you actually did play him, and then you're just like, nah, you can go sit on the bench, like type of deal. So then you go and you spend one of your only 3 picks to get a receiver. It's kind of like, yes, what he has on tape and all his measurements and stuff like that is really good, and I think that will help. But also, as we mentioned on previous podcasts too, like you also want to utilize, you know, tight ends. Like you had a beast tight end core last year with Greg Olsen, Disley, Parkinson. Who else do we have in there? You know the rest. And we suddenly didn't use him really. Like we went out and gave Greg Olsen $8 million to just not use him. Now, yes, he did get hurt, but like previously we were barely using him. He's a Pro Bowl tight end. Like, why wouldn't you do not? And Will Disley the year before was going, you know, beast mode on people. And then he comes back and he's healthy for you. And you're just like, nah, you know, we'll just not use him type of. It's like you can use those guys to have the nice under route type deal if DK and Lockett are not open on go routes or just, you know, on deep ball scenarios type of thing. Yes, having a third receiver helps, but also changing your system to where you have more open available routes underneath as well when the deep stuff isn't there is kind of the flaw, you know, that's what they should change to. But so for me, I'm gonna be a punk, and I'm gonna say it's a tie between both Eskridge.
Pick one. Damn it. Pick one.
If they let Cook, it's Eskridge.
Pick which one it is.
It's Eskridge. If they let
pick which one it is.
You can't cook if you don't have an offensive line blocking for you.
That's true.
Say that.
Yeah.
So
Sean?
pick which one it is, Kevin.
Gosh, now Chris brings up a good point because Russell he was the third most sack quarterback. He's like,
say a name.
No, it's fine. Just
Okay.
because Russell's getting older and he can't. I don't, even though he can still move. Like I shouldn't.
It doesn't matter. You're wrong.
Stone.
It's Dwayne. It's Dwayne. It's Dwayne Eskridge. Like I mean, yeah, I would like to believe in Stone or Brown, but I don't think either of them are playing. I think Eskridge is the only one that really gets any playing time this year. And I think that because of that, he's the only one who makes an impact. So that's my simple answer after Kevin.
There you go.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the NFC West. So let's just focus on the third pick. We scrutinized that quite a bit on our last podcast. They went with Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. It went, you know, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. So I want to talk about that pick because we kind of scrutinized who it might be. I'll just go ahead and start. I said that I would be more worried if they picked Trey Lance. I'm still not completely worried about it. I think there will be growing pains in a rookie season in the NFL for Trey Lance. He has the athleticism that does scare me. And it is kind of interesting. I think I saw a tweet. I can't remember what I saw. The 49ers and the Cardinals spent like the last 10 years trying to defeat Russell Wilson. So they drafted quarterbacks like Russell Wilson. And I think Trey Lance kind of fits in the mold of a Russell Wilson with the ability to get out of the pocket, to, use your legs to get quite a bit of yards. He has a decent arm that, that can easily be improved upon with lots of reps. So I think they went with the right pick at number 3. However, I can't say it makes them a better team. I can't say it improves them by, last year was an injury-plagued season. The year before they went to the Super Bowl. It's hard for me to put how much he makes their team better. Maybe a little bit. But we're going to come to that question in a little bit later. But I thought it was the right pick, but we'll see how it pans out. Chris, what do you think?
Well, I think I was, you reading some stuff the other day, and I was reading that the 49ers, they talked to Frank Gore about who their pick was going to be. And he's like, you don't go up to draft a pocket passer like that. And I would agree with that. Like, a pocket passer works in certain offenses. Like it works in the Patriots offense because, that's what they've been used to for the last 20 years. So they're kind of built around that. But in the NFC West, like your quarterbacks are mobile. Your quarterbacks have to be able to move, and they have to, have a defender account for him and stuff like that. And I think Trey Lance does that. I do think, FCS not really playing this year kind of hurts him a little bit because he's been sitting, he's basically been sitting for a year. They played one game in the fall for him, but going from practice to the games, like there is a different speed. There's a different, adjustment period for that. And to be sit out to take a year off, like I think that adjustment period is going to be a little harsher for him than some of the other guys. But I agree with you. I think he was the right pick for that spot. I know Shanahan's offenses are pretty wordy, so him coming from a more of a pro style offense probably helps him out a little bit more than just being one of those guys that reads cards and does hand signals. So I think he's got a leg up there, and it'll be interesting to see how he plays, how he pans out.
Sean, what do you think?
I think we talked about the only incorrect call was probably Mac Jones. So it doesn't make me feel good about playing the 49ers. Let's put it that way. Because if worse comes to worse, they just played a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo, and he took him to the Super Bowl last time he was healthy. So Trey Lance just offers more wrinkles and more weapons, and that team is going to get healthy, and you get more years on some of those wide receivers. And like Chris said, learning playbooks because they're really young. You sign Trent Williams, they drafted O-line early. They did trade for running back, which is funny, but at this point, we have no room to make fun of them. So we just talk about Penny. So I don't see how you can't say they're not a scary team. We're going to talk about it in a second, but yeah, I think the 49ers made the right pick with Trey Lance.
Kevin?
Now in previous podcasts, I mentioned how Mac Jones' scenario could fit in there just because you have the O-line to where he can go back and do it. Now, but at the same time too, another thing that I didn't really mention before is that, and Chris kind of noted it a little bit, you're kind of in murderer's row in the NFC West. Like every other opposing team has pass rush, like Arizona, literally JJ Watt, Chandler Jones, Simmons, Aaron Donald alone. My God. I won't even go into the rest. I'm just gonna say Aaron Donald, and that's enough. And then you have Jamal Adams, Dunlap, and now you're bringing in more other little pieces and stuff like that to where the Seahawks should have a good pass rush based off.
Thanks for Kitty including the Seahawks in that. But yeah,
out of the three, they're the least. Yes, but
by far. But yeah.
you want a guy that can make the throw, like, because that O-line is very good. He's going into it, and that's the thing too with Trey Lance, because I didn't want them to draft Trey Lance because I went to Eastern Washington, so I watched Trey Lance poop on my Eagles like literally for years. It's not nice. So the man, because he can do it, like he can make throw, like that's the thing that they were missing, a guy that can literally make those throws on, because Jimmy can't. I mean, every now and then he can, but like Jimmy's not that mobile quarterback to where like he can bootleg out and make a throw like 20, 30 yards downfield and zip it to a receiver, because they have a good young receiving core too. I think it's probably the best fit for him too, just because one, you're going into an offense that isn't going to ask too much of him because they have that established run game, and they have a good offensive system that it like disguises it, and it's going to make that run game even better because you can do a lot more. Because play action with Jimmy, you're not really thinking that Jimmy's going to take it downfield for 20 yards. Like Trey Lance can. He can take that ball down for like 10, 20 yards, and you need to have a spy or something for him that can incorporate that, like take that away. You have to take him in as a threat along with the running back. So it will make that running game more in depth and more scary for them, along with them having a solid O-line. And even if it doesn't work out this year, this is the move that pans out for down the road too, because one, you can eventually get rid of Jimmy, save some money there, and to where you're still, and also they have a good defense too. So it's like, yeah, I didn't like it at all because the 49ers look pretty dang good right now. And that's why you can't start a healthy Jimmy too, but like, I think Trey Lance can pretty much kind of do majority of what Jimmy can, but also do things that Jimmy can't. So I think he helps them.
All right, we're coming up on an hour here, so we'll get Chris out of here on this last one. So as of right now, no ties, Kevin. Rank the NFC West teams once again. So I will go ahead and start. Arizona Cardinals nailed it in the draft. Offense, outside linebacker in the first round, and then they got Rondale Moore, wide receiver out of Purdue, and then they just loaded up on the defense. Kyler Murray, AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins, Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk. Like, oh boy, that offense is just beautiful. Like, oh man, that's going to be a high scoring offense. Number two, I'm going to put the Seahawks at number two. They didn't have a lot of picks, but I think they did a lot in free agency to improve the team, to improve the line, and they're still defending NFC West champs, and I don't think they fell off that much in this offseason. So I'm going to put them at two. Number three, I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. I think that they made the right pick in Trey Lance. I don't know if he starts the whole season or if he beats out Jimmy. I think he will play this season. But, it remains to see how good he'll be and how healthy that team will be this year. And then number four, I will put the Los Angeles Rams. And I put them at four specifically because, A, I do not believe in Matthew Stafford, and I do not believe he will be healthy this entire season. So I believe that the Los Angeles Rams will be the last team in the NFC West. Sean, I'm going to throw it to you. What are your rankings?
I just think it was interesting that you said the Seahawks didn't fall off that much, yet the team that beat them you put in those playoffs, you put as last. The team that was clearly better than them, you put last. But that's
because Jared Goff is gone. He's the best.
Yeah, Jared Goff is better than losing Jared Goff hurt them. Okay, that's the first time I've heard that take. Yeah, like Chris said, the best thing you can't do so much if you don't have an O-line. Arizona still doesn't have really one. I will say the best team is still the San Francisco 49ers. I will say two is the Rams. And then I will say three, this is going to get close, but I will say three is the Seattle Seahawks, and then four is the Cardinals. But you could easily flip 3 and 4 in my book.
All right. Kevin, what do you think?
Oh, man. This one's tough just because there's a lot of variables, like what we do offensively with the.
That's why I'm saying at this moment.
As of right now in mind, Kevin, yes. I don't believe Russ is cooking, so that's why I have them at 3.
Okay.
That is what I think they will not.
Well, cook. Honestly, it's your same order, but like Russ cooking puts them at 3 for me. If he doesn't cook, it puts them at 4.
I mean, yeah, you could talk
Just-
into it.
Oh man, it's
Is that your order, Kevin? Same as mine?
I go 49ers just because Niners have just beat the Rams in division play. Like I don't know how they just do. It's a weird tic-tac-toe to where like the Rams always kick our butt, we kick the Niners butt, and then the Niners like kick the Rams butt, and then like Arizona just kind of does some weird stuff. It's like a weird rock paper scissors type deal. I'm going to say Niners, yeah, just because I think they upgraded a quarterback. You're going to have a lot of players. Like half their team was dead last year, and they went 500. Like, and they're coming back now.
I thought they won 6 games.
They were 6 games.
Oh, it was a 6 games. Well, it's a little sub 500, but it was still impressive. Like now you're getting a lot of that back. You're getting a young mobile quarterback that can make the throws on the run that Jimmy can't. And that pass rush is just now they did. I forgot that they lost Solomon Thomas. He's now a Raider. But it is still a really good defense though. Man.
Go, Kevin, do it. Rapid fire, go.
Actually, just because and they also lost a lot of their secondary too. I'm actually going to put the Rams first. Just because most of that defense is still there, other than Josh Johnson, that was a big loss for them. He's a really good safety. The Browns look scary this year. I won't even get into that. You still have pretty much most of the pieces coming back defensively for them, and you upgraded on offense. That O-line's really the question mark, even though they did draft O-linemen. Just because you have a lot of older pieces on that. So I'm going to put the Rams first. Then I'll put the Niners second, just because they lost more pieces defensively. Then I will put. Oh, don't do it! Oh God.
Just do it.
I'm gonna put Seahawks 3 just because in a shootout I trust Russell more, and I've always will say that. It doesn't like if you put him in if it's a shootout situation with all these quarterbacks, Russell will win. And especially that you just got him another weapon. It's just the offensive scheme of run, pass will it change. Like that's what hinders it. You're just putting handcuffs and an anchor on one of the best quarterbacks of all freaking time. Oh, sorry. And then Cardinals 4th.
Chris, what do you think?
Well, I think I'm going to put the Rams first, simply because they got the missing piece that they needed. Whether Matthew Stafford stays healthy the entire season or not, they got the quarterback that they wanted. They have an offense that's already there, already built in. I mean, you got Cooper Kupp from Eastern Washington. Like I said, you have a defense that's led by Aaron Donald. Like that's terrifying, So the Rams would be number one in my list. I think I would put the Niners second, only because, yeah, they drafted Trey Lance, but they still have Jimmy G. So how do you balance that transition? How do you obviously I think QB1 starting the season is going to be Garoppolo, but then you're going to have to make a transition, a change at some point, which probably hinders that team because you're going to have those rookie mistakes and a couple of those losses. I think, third for me would probably be the Seahawks. I think they have the potential. They have the pieces there. Can they put it together? Can they change their offensive scheme? Can their defense come through? Can Jamal Adams get more interceptions than Vince Wilfork has had in his entire career?
No.
Let's see where we can go with that. And then the Cardinals are the Cardinals, man. Cliff Kingsbury and his spread offense and stuff like that. Yeah, it has glimpses of working really well in this league, but when push comes to shove, you got to be able to run the football. And I just don't see Arizona with how they do things being able to do that. And I think so. I'd go Rams, Niners, Seahawks, Cardinals.
All right. Well, let us know what you think out there. I am at Beatty_Matt. Sean is at Sean_Beatty. Kev is at Kev's Believes the first team believes being a 3. Chris, you got a Twitter you want to plug?
No.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you very much for joining the show. We
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
you coming onto the show, giving us some insight. It was awesome. So thanks for coming on, and we will see you next time on Washington East to West Sports.